You've been playing that wrong. This is another in a series of videos designed to answer questions that are frequently asked about the board game Vantage. Today we are going to talk about how many skill tokens you start with at the start of the game. This game is fairly unique in that there's not a lot of setup instructions given. But if you just follow the rules or the directions at the starting locations in the game, then you should end up with 6 skill tokens when you're ready to start making decisions in the game. If you are a solo player or if you are the first player in a multiplayer game, and you'll end up with 4 skill tokens if you are playing a multiplayer game and you are not the first player. So we're just going to do the setup from the beginning. The game tells you to start at location 0 after placing the playing mat out in the center of the table, and we just go through the steps at location 0. So the first step is weeks after receiving the mysterious signal from the traveler, your ship arrives in orbit of an uncharted planet. Create the total challenge dice pool using 8 dice plus 2 per player. So we have to fill this challenge dice pool with 8 dice plus 2 per player. I'm going to show you what it looks like for a solo game. So I would add 8 challenge dice to the pool, and then as there's only one player playing in the solo game, I would add 2 more for a total of 10. This was a 2-player game, there would be 12, and so on. So we've solved part 1 here. Each player gains a different skill. Select a randomized and its matching character card. So I'm going to do it randomly. And I've rolled the red skill, so I grab a red skill token out of the supply. So I've got 1 red skill token, and then that instruction tells me I get card 1440 out of the box, which you can see the number on the bottom of the card there, 1440. So I have my character. When I place this card, it says I should place 2 boost tokens from the supply onto that character, so I'll do that. And we go back to our rule here. Place this card in the middle of your grid and gain the when placed benefit, which are those 2 boost tokens. Then we set our trackers onto the player mat that determines our health, our morale, and our time we have left in our suit. So I rolled the red character up, so I'll get the red tokens out. And the game says I can put them, the instruction says I can put them into play either at 3, 4, 5, or 6. 4 rather, I think is the, is that the default level? No, I guess 5 is the default level. One of those or other is the default level. But the game says you don't have to set these all at the same place if you don't want to. It's really up to you as a solo player. And when you're playing multiplayer, different players can put those in different locations. The lower the number, the more difficult the game. The higher the number, the easier, especially the start of the game is. The first player gains 2 skills at random and places the matching mission in the center. They may re-roll pairs to get an easier mission. Then everyone goes to location 001. So the first player and the first player only is going to select the mission, which are these shown at the table, sort of at the right of location 000. And this is why the first player ends up with 2 extra skill tokens, or if you're playing solo game, why you would, as a solo player, have 2 extra skill tokens. So I've rolled a purple and a yellow. So I get a take skill and a look skill. I've already gotten 1 skill when I got my character, so this would be now 2 more skills that I get. And it says the missions are harder when you roll doubles. I didn't roll doubles. I didn't roll 2 purples. I rolled a purple and a yellow. And I can find the purple and the yellow is mission 1595. And I would get that card out and I would place it there. Now I'm not going to put it out here to avoid any spoilers. And it says that we all now go to location 001, which is on the back of the Book of Secrets. So you can see we have 001. It tells us the ship malfunctions. You have mere seconds to escape. Each player gains a different skill, and this is going to help them basically figured out where they crash land. Now, players cannot crash land on the same location. So if you're playing a 6-player game, and one person, let's say, rolls blue, no one else can take blue. So if somebody else rolls blue, they would have to re-roll. I'm only a solo player in this game, so I will go ahead and roll the dice. I get another yellow take skill token. So now I have 4. Although remember, these 2 I got when I selected the mission. So only me as the first player would get these 2. Everybody else would have 2 right now, but I have 4 as the first player. And the yellow tells me that I crash, or rather, not that I crash at location 6, but rather that my escape pod is descending through the clouds, and the scene I get is location 6. Now, this isn't much of a spoiler. There's only 6 possible cards that players will start the game with. And these cards are essentially all very similar to one another, except for the table that you see on the right. Okay? So now notice the instruction at the bottom. Each player, now I have selected my location, it says each player should now have 2 skill tokens, and the first player should have 4. And that is correct. But this has apparently created some confusion for players because now we're about to get 2 more skill tokens. But notice we read this part before we now deal with this card. So this is telling you you should have 4 at this point, or if you're not the first player, 2 at this point. But it's not saying you're done getting skill tokens, because now we evaluate this location, which is now different for all the players. It says your escape pod seals tight, ejecting towards the planet in a completely different direction from the others. Gain 2 random skills and crash onto the matching location. You may re-roll pairs to get an easier location. Okay, and so while every card has this instruction on it, the possible crash landings are going to be different for each card. And so now I will roll these 2 skill dice. I got a purple and a red, so I can go and get a red and a purple. And I'm going to start the game now with 6 skill tokens, 1 from my character, 2 from the mission that only I as the first player selected. Then we had 1 that determined which of these escape pod views I would have as I'm crashing on the planet, and then I just rolled 2 at my location. So everybody would get these 4, and then the first player or the solo player would additionally get these 2. Okay, now I rolled a purple and a red, which means I should start the game at location 150. And I won't pull that out because that would also be a spoiler. But I think many people consider that's now the start of the game. So this is where you start to make decisions and the game starts to vary in terms of what you might do. So in sum, I have 6 and other players would have 4. And that's how you determine your starting skill tokens in Vantage.